If you like this episode, please subscribe, share with others, rate and review so we can continue to bring you great programming.
This is The Thing About Cars, a podcast for car enthusiasts and the people who love them.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Thing About Cars. We have been away from the table for a while, just getting our ducks in a row and trying to let life not get in the way and failing. But I'm glad to be sitting around here with four friends, or actually three friends. I'm the fourth. Ben, how are you?
Pretty damn good. So you are your own best friend then?
I am. I take myself out every once in a while. I treat myself nice. I take a bath. It's fun.
Awesome.
Tim, how are you?
Doing great. How's everybody else?
Fantastic. And Misty?
I have ducks.
Ducks? Like the waterfowl?
Well, you said get our ducks in a row. I'm like, I have ducks? I don't think so. I think I have rabid squirrels, but beyond that, had a few rough weeks. Yeah,
rabid squirrels. Yes.
Yeah, rabid squirrels. I had a few rough weeks, but everything's back on track, and I've managed to not lose my mind. So.
Well, that's good. That's an accomplishment these days, especially these days. Good grief. But I'm glad you're all still here, and I'm glad we get to make this recording with each other today. So let's jump right into a moment of Grand Trivia Auto. If I can get my brain to form words today. Tim sent me this one quite some time ago, but the question is, what might limber up old yellow nylon parts and make even new nylon parts easier to install and remove? So nylon parts, what kind of nylon parts are we talking about, first of all, Tim? Are we talking about bushings? Are we talking about what does that mean?
Yeah, when you find a piece of white plastic in your car, I think that's generally nylon. And yeah, it's often used as a bushing or bearing surface.
Okay,
and,
good.
The light duty stuff. You're not going to find it in an engine. You find it in interior pieces and
right. So what limbers those things up? What makes them even easier to install and remove? A, should you place the part in an oven heated to 180 degrees Fahrenheit, that's 82 degrees centigrade, for an hour? Should you put the nylon part in boiling water for a few minutes or let it soak in water overnight? Or C, should you drench the nylon part in gasoline and then immediately wipe it off? So we'll answer that question at the end of the show. Think about that. You need me to reread the choices again?
I think I got them.
Okay.
I think I got them. I'm just disappointed that yoga wasn't on the list, but okay.
That's too good. Ben, I understand you've got some gears to grind.
Well, sort of. I mean, this is a common one for many of us out there, and just about anybody who's ever driven on a highway. Of course, I'm talking about the Left Lane Bandit, those people who camp out in the passing lane and go too slow and don't get out of the way and that sort of thing. Nothing new about that, where we've all been frustrated by them, but I noticed an interesting thing. And to give a little background for listeners who don't know this, my day job requires an immense amount of highway driving. I work as a field service engineer, which is a glorified term for a traveling repairman. I mostly do this stuff in rental cars. I can do anywhere from a couple hundred to 1,500 miles a week, depending on where my customers are. So yeah, I do a lot of highway driving. And so I see a lot of what goes on our interstates and state and federal highways. So Left Lane Bandits, certainly nothing new to me, but the thing I've kind of been noticing over the recent past is since I see so many of them day in and day out, I've started to notice a little bit of a pattern with their vehicles. And the top three most common Left Lane Bandit vehicles, and they're not really in any particular order, but they're all pretty egregious. The top three I notice are, one of them is white vans with ladders on the roof, which are probably driven by painters, maybe drywall contractors, but basically ladder vans. Another one is pickup trucks pulling large trailers. And then the other, and those two, have a little bit in common. They're both utilitarian. They both appear to be doing some kind of work. But the third one is the oddball. The third one is Kia Souls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never trust a hamster.
We were talking about this at lunch yesterday. We were a handful of us sat down yesterday to talk about how to turn the thing about cars into a TV show, which is, we've talked about this from time to time as a podcast, but I think I want to really put some energy into this. In any case, during this lunch discussion, the Kia Soul thing came up and Ben got mad. And I'm like, crap, I'm sitting next to Ben and he got mad. So I thought
it's rare that I do.
Yes.
Well,
so,
and it's a little bit of an odd thing because it's a good car. I've driven a couple of them as rentals. They're well designed. They do what they do really well. The hamster ads were very cute. They're a decent car all around. But why are they so popular with these Left Lane Bandits? That's the thing that bugs me. And then maybe behind them a little ways is Toyota Prius. You got some Earth Mother who needs the lane far more than you do, apparently. But yeah, the ladder vans I'm not sure about. Maybe these guys have been painting all day. They're just too lazy to move out of your way. The trucks with the trailers, I think that one's pretty lame. I have driven a large truck with a trailer. I used to work at a place where we had this truck in our shop. It was a Ford F650 Super Duty.
That's a big truck.
Yeah, it was a 4-door cab that had an 11-foot flatbed instead of a pickup bed. It had dually rears, and it was a diesel. And I changed the oil on it a few times too. I can tell you all about that in another discussion someday. But and then we had a 22-foot flatbed trailer or a similar length enclosed trailer we'd put behind this thing. We used this to deliver equipment to places that we were installing it. We were a company that did engineering contracting stuff for hospitals, and we would deliver like medical vacuum pumps and things like that with this truck and trailer rig. And so I drove this rig on the highways quite a bit. And I found nothing difficult about putting on that turn signal and moving a lane over. It's not a major undertaking. It's just a couple seconds of, about as much effort as it takes to turn the page in a book, really. You have to watch your mirrors and make sure there's nobody in your way. But, it's not a big task to change lanes in something like this.
Right.
So I don't get why they're so, and a lot of them just either, they completely ignore you when you flash them, that kind of thing. Just, I don't know.
I'm going to take devil's advocate here for a minute. You don't suppose it's just safer in the left lane for them? They don't have to look out for much in the left lane.
No.
Yeah, they got a 50% lower chance of sideswiping somebody there, because if they're in the middle lane, they can swipe people on both sides.
Right.
I actually had this discussion with
my
husband.
That's on them if they're...
I actually had this discussion with my husband the other day because I have to drive into Rotterdam.
Yeah.
Which is about 42 kilometers one way. And there's some portions of the highway that are only 2 lanes. And they've recently lowered the speed limit overall to 100 kilometers an hour. But after 7 p.m., it goes up to 120. And so I'm like over in the left lane doing 100, trying to pass someone who's doing 80. Please don't get me started. And then I've got some jerk, usually in a BMW, an Audi, or a Volkswagen Polo, who just comes riding up on my tailpipe. And I'm like, honey, if you ain't going to pull my hair, you might need to back off. So I'm kind of caught in between of, I would rather not get a speeding ticket with excessive fines, or I'm stuck behind grandma in her Fiat 500, but then we do have different laws in the Netherlands. Like if you have a trailer, you actually can't be over like in the, in like the far left lane. But if it's only a 2-lane highway, or I'm like on the A4 and there's somebody in the 3rd lane, usually from Germany, I have a complaint.
Freaking Germans.
Yeah, no, but they're like, it's like 100, and I'm already struggling because it's only 100 and they want to do 90. And it is, a big, huge no. You will get a fine if you pass on the right. And I roll by and I do the typical Dutch thing, which is tap your forehead like, is your hamster dead? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, doubters.
Yes, there's the corollary to this of, I think it was George Carlin said, whenever you're driving, anyone who wants to drive faster than you is insane. And anyone who's driving slower than you is obviously an idiot.
It's exactly true. It's very true.
But to get back to the safety thing, I don't buy it. Because first of all, if you can't control your trailer, you got problems. You either ought not be driving it or need to take it in to get fixed or something. Second, trailers lose tires at an alarming rate. And I don't know if it's down to maintenance or being overloaded or what, but trailer tires fail a lot, in which case I would want them to be near the right side of the road so they can get onto the shoulder easily without flailing a trailer that's got a failed tire through all the other lanes.
Right.
You certainly don't want to be in the median trying to fix that.
Well, I mean, yeah.
And on top of it all, the law says slower traffic, keep right, damn it.
Yes, but slower is also very subjective. And the law also says tractor trailers have to avoid the left shoe lanes on the interstate, and they always disregard that rule.
Yeah. Well, we could do another whole show on the lack of professionalism of semi-truck drivers these days. But I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the pickups with big trailers.
Right. Well, anyway, those are good gears to grind, Ben. I don't know if there's any solution to that problem, except I have seen that reverse mirror writing sunscreen that fits across the top of your windshield, and in mirror writing it says slower traffic, keep right, so that if I'm the car in front of you and I look in my mirror, I see the lettering in plain non-mirrored script that says slower traffic, keep right. But apart from doing something like that,
if I could get that with an electroluminescent layer so it can glow at night,
I don't think that should be that hard to do. I think we can find one for
it shouldn't.
Well, why don't you just install like a little LED,
exactly,
like a little LED board, then you can, so your passenger can change, the message, like, you're a bum.
My new Mazda has a fair amount of space in that big, long, Kodo design front end. So I might be able to stick a missile launcher in there.
Well, it's easy enough to set up with some bottle rockets and the little igniters you use for model rockets, and plug it in your cigarette lighter.
I'll start working on that, Ben, because I just got news that in February, Eric is getting the Mazda 6.
Oh.
I'm still not happy because I wanted to go back to the SUV, and actually his mother was like, that CX-5, that was really, really nice, and it was roomy, and it was so very comfortable. So, I mean, I feel sorry for him because he's got his mom and his wife kind of going, why didn't you get the CX-5? Why are you going with the Mazda 6? But, at least it's a Mazda. It is the dark blue, so it's not technically black.
Right.
Right.
So, he claims he tried for the Soul Red, but they wouldn't let him have it because it's a business lease. I call shenanigans. But until then, we are stuck with this BMW, which I hate because there's so much of it that's not automatic.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Well, we got a new car in our stable.
You do?
Yes. My wife just took delivery of a Kia Telluride with 2,500 miles on it. Yeah. So we're still trying to get through the owner's manual and correlate that to how you actually interact with all the systems on it to get everything set up to our liking. In fact, I haven't even driven it yet. I've been the expert passenger so far.
Okay, so let's talk about the Telluride for a minute, because that is on my short list of cars that once we once Jen and I finish our search for a house and buying a house, which probably won't happen until we see wholesale economic collapse. But why the Telluride, and can I ask how much you guys paid for it?
Let's see, why the Telluride? It's totally Heather's decision. It's a business car for her. Going to be replacing our Chevrolet Traverse. And she's a professional organizer, so she needs to be able to put a lot of packing materials in the back of her vehicle on a daily basis, because she does a lot of people assisting with packing and unpacking for moves. So she needs a lot of cargo space, and combine that with comfort of a daily driver, and that's what it came down to. And it has literally all the bells and whistles that she's ever wanted, and more. So
cool. Yeah.
And I'm not exactly sure what she paid for it, because I file that under, it's her business decision, and doesn't come out of my wallet.
I'm just curious because if I'm going to make this decision, I need to know if the used car market is still a bit inflated because of supply and demand issues and stuff like that. But yeah, it is definitely on my short list, along with the car that Ben's driving. Of course, by the time I get one, or by the time I'm in the market to actually pull the trigger, the CX-50 will be out. The CX-5 will be gone.
Right.
So we'll see. Good find. Good for Heather. One last thing before we answer the trivia question and wrap our episode. I made a week-long road trip to Pennsylvania recently in a Denali Yukon, and it was kind of nice. And I was telling Ben about this briefly yesterday. There were parts of it that I liked and parts of it that I really didn't, and I walked away from this experience saying I don't really want one.
Right.
Wow.
Misty's like, yep. But it's huge. It's
right.
It's this massive vehicle. It's got a ton of bells and whistles. It wasn't really that comfortable in the driver's seat for some reason. But I do like the seat warmers and the seat coolers. That part was really cool. The seat cooler was really nice. A cold back was very nice. But for some reason, it just didn't feel like home. When you sit behind a wheel of a car and it just sort of speaks to you, and that car never really felt like home to me. So
For the unfamiliar, this is the fullest full-size GM SUV. This is GM's equivalent of the Chevy Suburban. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at it online right now, and yeah, it's huge. And I've driven the equivalent Suburban in my biz travels a couple times.
Yep. We had 5 people plus our luggage in that thing, and it did the job very, very well, in terms of getting us up there and back in relative comfort. And it was a great road trip. But the vehicle, the truck itself, I've driven other Suburbans, like an older Suburban just feels more comfortable to me. This one did not. And every time I see a new bell or a new whistle on that dashboard, I can't help but think, oh, great, another thing that's going to break eventually, right? Like the heads-up display, which is really cool. Or, this new nav system with all these integrations in it that go through my phone. And if that screen breaks, then what? Or if its ability to, the lane guidance sensors and stuff like that. I put the car in reverse and it actually gives me a heads down display of what's around the car, right? Like I'm somewhere in a drone above the vehicle looking down at the road around my car just so I don't run over anything. And of course it's using the 4 cameras that are on the car to create this image, this modified image of the landscape around the car. It's all really cool, but it's that line from Star Trek that I learned from Scotty, which is the more you overtake the plumbing, the easier it is to stop up the works or whatever it is. And and that's what I keep thinking. So I don't know. There's a part of me that likes the bells and whistles, and there's a part of me that's like, I don't know. Yeah,
but the Telluride has all those same things that you experienced, and as I'll say Heather was backing out the driveway yesterday. It was her first time engaging reverse in the vehicle, I think. And yes, she has this overhead and it shows us backing down her driveway. And I said, oh, look, Heather, it's like you're playing a video game. And I think you're losing.
My CX-5 is a little bit simpler in that regard. It's not quite as over the top with some of that stuff, but it still has a lot of things like the heads-up display and all that.
Yep.
And I'm not worried about any of it, although it's kind of funny because it's got the same lane warning system that my old 3 had, where if the radar units in the rear bumper detect a vehicle in the next lane, when you turn on the turn signal, it beeps at you a little. But the CX-5, it's very sensitive. It seems like if there's anything within 1/8 of a mile of you, it alerts. But the big victory there was I figured out how to decrease the volume of the warning beep. There was no adjustment for the distance sensitivity, but there was an adjustment for the volume of the beep. So I'm like, yay, I was able to quiet that down some because it was really annoying.
Kind of like your mom designed it, like my mother-in-law, bless her heart. I mean, she's 82 and, she's like, wait, there's somebody in the other lane. There's somebody. And I'm like, yeah, like half a kilometer back, like a whole kilometer back. Yeah, she's she's one of those nervous Nelly passengers, and I'm just I need to take Valium before I drive her anywhere.
You know what? I think we
experienced that same thing with the Telluride last night, where I hope we'll be able to find something to be able to turn down the volume of it, because I'm one who likes to put my turn signal on to signal my eventual lane change, not my immediate lane change. Here I come, like some people do. And yeah, so it's going to trigger it even when you're still in the process of passing that vehicle that you're about to change into the lane in front of them. So.
Right.
You know what I think we should do is I think we should put vibrating seats under all the other passenger seats in the cars while we're at it.
So that hey, look out, someone's doing something around you.
I think that, as long as we're going there, let's go there. Otherwise, I could also just use it to prank my passengers and hit a switch and make all their seats go nuts. And I'm the one who's up front laughing.
Well, then if they start asking,
that's just the ejector seat warming up.
If they all start asking you to do that again, then
Yeah,
then
right.
You can start charging.
Right.
I'll be that Uber driver.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, like on my Mazda, the lane departure, I have a couple of, mine just basically like if it notices me going over a white line and I don't have my turn signal on, then it does its little thing. But mine, you can adjust it. And I know on the CX-5 was that too. It could either beep at you or it will rumble at you. And kind of also wiggle the steering wheel. And, and I kind of go, yeah, whatever, Claudette, you just need to chill. Valiant.
Right.
The thing I noticed in the Denali, and we don't have to dwell on this anymore if we don't want to, but that the lane guidance system was not that consistent, right? It also depended upon the condition of the roads that we were on. And sometimes it thought a line was there and a line wasn't. And sometimes the other way around. Sometimes, to me, at least, the line was clearly there and the car just never saw it. Right. So it's not a perfect science, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah, and that kind of ties into what they're trying to do with a lot of self-driving cars, where what a computer perceives is not necessarily the same as what a human perceives.
Right, exactly. Misty, yep, go ahead, Ben.
Did it have the feature where if you drift into the line at less than so many degrees of angle, it'll nudge you back in?
Yes. In fact, that was kind of annoying. There were a couple times when I'm sitting here making what I thought was just a good old-fashioned legitimate lane change, and the car's like, nope.
Yeah. That hasn't happened to me on the ones I've experienced, but there was a Cadillac some years ago. What was it? The XT4 or whatever they call it, the little smaller SUV that, going down the interstate, I just kind of took my hands off the wheel, kept them near it, but took them off and let it do that a few times. But the third time it would give you this big warning on the dashboard to put hands back on wheel,
Oh, Eric's CX-5 would do that because he has this thing about driving, he'll drive like with his hands kind of down in his lap because he's 85 million meters tall. And all of a sudden it would beep and it would flash on the heads-up display like hands on the steering wheel. And he's like, shut up. So, made driving to Spain always very interesting.
Yes. Well, let's wrap our episode with the answer to to Tim's trivia question. The question, if I may remind you, is what might limber up old yellowed nylon parts and make even new nylon parts easier to install or remove? In backwards order, C, can you drench the nylon part in gasoline and then immediately wipe it off? B, can you put the nylon part in boiling water for a few minutes or let it soak in water overnight? Or A, can you place the nylon part in an oven heated to 180 degrees Fahrenheit? That's 82 degrees for our European audience. Do that for an hour and then it'll soften it up. Misty, what do you think?
I'm going to go with some very gentle yoga and a bubble bath. So B.
That always works on me, actually. Yeah.
See, that's what I'm basing it on you.
Soaking in water overnight. That works.
I just base all my answers on. Well, what would Mickey do?
He's going to take a bubble bath, and that just solves all the problems. That's nice, Misty. Thank you. Ben, what do you think?
I got tossed up between the water and the gasoline here, and I know they don't mix. And of course, gasoline doesn't make a very good bubble bath either.
No.
But yeah, I'm really tossed up because what I know about plastics and polymers, both are kind of plausible. But since water's been chosen already, I'll do the gasoline just for the hell of it.
Tim, do you remember the answer?
I don't, but I'm going to go back to a bit of personal experience. I found out through a YouTube video that if you have a vinyl part on the interior of your car and it's gotten scuffed, once you kind of shave it down so you no longer have the rough bit on it, you can actually take a heat gun to it and till you get just a little bit of the, you're basically almost melting the surface of it. and that will bring back its original finish. So I'm going to go with the oven option.
The oven option. Got it. Well, the answer is, in fact, B. Put the nylon part in boiling water for a few minutes or let it soak in water overnight. The boiling water does not melt the nylon. Soaking nylon in room temperature water for a long time has the same impact as a short bath in boiling water. The moisture releases tension between polymer molecules that was created when the part was first made, or that build up over time as it was exposed to sunlight, heat, et cetera, et cetera. So boiling water does the trick. The bubble bath is always the answer.
That's what I was about to say, you know.
Yeah, and the yoga might help the installer depending on what part of the vehicle you're trying to put it in.
It's very true.
Yeah. The lotus position, reference that.
That's good.
Oh,
all right.
That was amazing. Thank you, Ben.
That was a good come around for that. That's yes. Right. So we, like I said at the beginning or somewhere earlier in this episode, we are thinking more seriously about how to turn this show into more of a television presence. So we value everybody's input on how we should go about doing that. And sure, thinking of segments that we can put on the air would be fine. But what would make you tune in to a show that involved us, the thing about cars? People, what should we do? And some of the ideas that have floated across the table so far are things like highlighting Southern car culture, since most of us live here in Atlanta, in and around Georgia, and Misty's, got genes that are from the South. And so how do we, highlight Southern car culture? But not only do we want to think about events and shows and stuff like that, but it would help us out a great deal if we could meet people who play in that industry, television producers, car industry folks, executives and folks who actually work for the car makers or people who might eventually sponsor a show. I would love to be able to at least shake some hands right now just to play the networking game in preparation for getting something down on paper before we even start scripting a show. So if you can help us out in that regard, please find me on LinkedIn. Just search for Mickey Desai on LinkedIn. I should float to the top, or search for the thing about cars on LinkedIn and you should be able to find me that way. And I appreciate any suggestions, any connections you can help me make. That would help us out a great deal. So, what am I forgetting, you guys? Anything else before we wrap?
Catch up.
So if any of them have a suitcase full of cash, they can help us with too.
Yes. There is that.
If I'm going to be on TV, I might need a facelift first.
Well, I don't know, Tim. You're beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
But
do I have to wear pants?
No, pants are always optional.
Wear shorts, skirts.
Yeah.
Dresses.
I think we should all wear kilts. There should be an official thing about cars kilt.
Ooh, I have a kilt.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a utilikilt?
It's a orange. It's an orange tartan utilikilt.
No, I've got a olive green utilikilt that I don't fit in anymore, and then I've got kind of a cheap knockoff in black that I think I do still fit in.
You're all set for the Scottish Army with the olive green?
No, it's just the color that utilakilts chose to make it in.
Okay.
Speaking of kilts, I was coming home from work Friday and it was kind of late. It was pushing like 9 p.m. because we have a thing called Beers and Cheers after work, which usually involves a pool table and foosball tables. I was coming home kind of through the industrial district. That's how I get off like the provincial road goes along the river.
Yeah.
And I was at this small roundabout and there's like very few residential homes in this particular area, and it's like literally in front of like a plumbing type store and a gas station and the garage for Fentival Tours, which is also like touring buses, etc. And I'm talking to Eric on my car.
Mm-hmm.
I've got I had the top up because it started to rain, and I hear bagpipes, and I look, and like coming along the sidewalk is this guy in a kilt playing the bagpipes, and he was actually really good at it. And there was it was like this little 2-person parade, and I'm just kind of like, this doesn't even make any sense. I mean, this was not a residential area. This was over by the public swimming pool, kind of in the, all the industrial stuff. And it was just like, it was like 9 o'clock at night on a Friday night. And I'm like, what? Why? Okay.
Do you know the song that was being played?
No, I don't. But it was just, it was very bizarre. And I was just like, what? Okay.
All All right, you guys, let's call that one a wrap. And thanks as always to our listeners for joining us and being a part of this adventure for us. With us, we hope we can turn this into something larger for all of us to expand our ability to actually look at the cars we talk about and not just talk about them. And we will see you with another episode in about a week. Take care, everybody.
See ya.
Bye now.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Thing About Cars. We'll see you on the road.